Shalom. Our Torah portion this week is Vayeishev. And Vayeishev teaches us some very important lessons about power and the use and misuse of power. In politics these days, politicians, elected leaders, tend not to take responsibility for mistakes that they make in the execution of their tasks for which they are elected, and often they avoid taking responsibility for mistakes that they make in their own personal lives. And yet, our religious tradition, and I believe much of it is based on this particular Torah portion with regard to the use of power, teaches us that power must be associated with a willingness to admit when one has done the wrong thing. To err is human. And what is righteous and noble about people in power is their ability to admit when they have done something that is wrong, when they've made a mistake. And I think it's also incumbent upon us as followers of our leaders to forgive our leaders when they are forthcoming with their admissions of wrongdoing. Now, let me just explain what this Torah portion is about. It's a narrative. We see that Judah, who was a person of considerable power and influence within Jacob's family, he has three sons, and his first son married a woman by the name of Tamar, and he died. The son died. The second son marries Tamar. He also dies. There is a third son, and by biblical law, a brother is supposed to take his deceased brother's wife and marry her, and to have a child to carry on the name of his deceased brother. So the third brother, the third son of Judah, is required to marry Tamar. But Judah decides not to allow his son Shelah to marry Tamar. Now, what Tamar does is very interesting. Tamar dresses up in a very enticing manner, and she disguises herself, and she seduces her father-in-law Judah, and she is impregnated by him. He wants to pay her something, thinking of her as a common harlot. He wants to pay her something, and he has no money. And what he does, he leaves a signet ring, he leaves his staff, and a cord with her as kind of a deposit, saying, I will pay you and I will get these things back. In the meantime, she is beginning to show signs of pregnancy. And it is a great shonda, as we say in Yiddish. It turns out to be a great scandal. Here she is, the widowed wife of one of Judah's deceased sons, and she's pregnant. And Judah, who is in charge of deciding what to do with her, calls her out to try her for this indiscretion, this apparent indiscretion, and is preparing to burn her at the stake, as was required under biblical law. But let's see what happens in the meantime. Let's turn to chapter 38 in the book of Exodus to find out what happens. Vayomer Yehuda, הוציאוה ותשרף. היא מוצאת והיא שלחה אל חמיה לאמור, לאיש אשר אלה לו אנוכי חרה. ותאמר, הכר נא למי החותמת והפתילים והמטה האלה. ויקר יהודה ויאמר, צדקה ממני, כי על כן לא נתתיה לסלע בני, ולא יסף עוד לדתה. And Judah said, bring her out and let her be burned. Brought out she was, but she sent to her father-in-law, saying, the man to whom these things belong made me pregnant. Acknowledge whose signet, seal, cords, and staff these are. Judah recognized them and said, she is more in the right than I. For certainly I did not give her to my son Shelah. And he never touched her again. What's remarkable here is Tamar did not confront Judah publicly. She just sent him these items that he had left with her. He has the choice of ignoring these items, avoiding his responsibility for having impregnated Tamar. He could have just had her burned, and it would have been the end of the matter, and we would never have heard about this incident. But what does he say? She is more in the right than I am. She is more righteous than I am. He takes responsibility for what he has done, publicly acknowledging what he had done. And for this, we're told by some of the commentators that the house of Judah, his descendants, were raised up to be the monarchs of Israel, as an example of not perfection, not moral and ethical perfection, but as people who exemplify what power is about. And being a person with power requires that we do not abuse power. And if we make mistakes, we are to own up to them and to take responsibility for those mistakes. And we Jews are actually named after Judah. Judah, Yehudah. Yehudim literally means Judeans. The shortened form for that is Jew. And all of us, every single person, in one context or another, exerts power. A parent over a child, a teacher over a student, a boss over an employee. All of us, in some context or another, has power. And we have to remember that when we exercise power in any of those contexts, that we must always be willing to admit when we're wrong and to rectify whatever what we've done wrong. Well, I hope that you will read this week's Torah portion and come to your own conclusions. Shabbat Shalom.
أبا شمعون كن بعوني لا دعيتك عينني أبا شمعون كن بعوني